If not us, who? And if not now, when?
The following is an EHC media production.
For honest, uncut, and often controversial coverage of all things wrestling, there's one place to get it, with some good old banter thrown in.
Join the Butcher and myself, two-time Knowledge Champion Mike Larkin, along with your host Dazzy Dangerously, every Friday for the Max Wrestling Podcast, with championship specials every 2 to 3 months.
WWE, New Japan, Ring of Honor, and the company with many names and more.
On Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, Podomatic, iTunes, and Stitcher.
We must now bid you adieu, goodbye, mwah, and good night. Bam!
Watching the WWE 24 coverage of WrestleMania 34 was amazing. Just brought chills to my skin and reminded me of how great it felt when I was live there in New Orleans. Every switchblade needs his switch babe.
Welcome to episode 2 of Talking Strong Style with the Switch Babe. My name is Courtney Summers. I'm your host of this new show that I've decided to launch. And this week, we have a lot to discuss this week. A lot. This has been a pretty crazy, would be an understatement, past 7 days since I last recorded. In the world of wrestling, we've had the Best of the Super Juniors tournament announced. We've had those participants announced. We've had Jay White versus Hiroki Goto, with the premise being that who wins this match gets whoever wins out of Sonata and Okada. And I've got some thoughts on that. We're also going to talk about Tama this morning, going on Twitter and saying outright he does not want to be involved in the G1. We're also going to talk about the title of this episode, Here's Mox. John Moxley, aka Mox, is back, y'all. And we're going to talk about maybe where he could be going, what could have led to this decision to exit WWE, and then the second he's released at midnight, release this video, what I think is going on here. And I think there's a lot that hasn't been discussed and that hasn't been brought up from the human perspective of this. Also, we're going to talk about AEW and All Hyped Out, and how I'm kind of feeling that way these days. And here we are, like a month till Double or Nothing, and why I think a lot of people are hyped out on AEW, and what I think AEW can do in the future to kind of safeguard themselves against this. And then I've decided to introduce a new segment called Ask the Switch Babe, where you send in your questions to me on Twitter, use the hashtag Ask the Switch Babe, and I will go through, search that hashtag. I will pull all the questions that I'm given at this point because people didn't participate. And if you're listening and you're not participating, I want you to participate. I want you to be a part of this because I want this show to feel like you are a part of this as well, because you take the time out of your busy life to listen to this. So why not, give that back by, answering questions and making it feel interactive and making it feel like you are a part of this. Like, in much in the same vein that my good friend Killer Kross does. He is very interactive. He makes you feel like you're a part of what's going on with this character. And in that same vein, I want to make you feel like you're a part of Talking Strong Style. So send in those questions, and every week this is going to be a weekly segment. I have a few questions sent in from some lovely listeners and some friends, and I can't wait to give you my thoughts on them. So with that being said, I said I would tell you a little bit more about me every week. So me as a wrestling fan now, if I had to give you my top 5 in the world, a mix of men and women, they would be Jay White, Killer Kross, Tama Tonga, Io Shirai, and Toni Storm. Those would be my favorites in the world right now. And that kind of gives you an idea of who I am as a fan. Like, I am very not anti-WWE, because I do enjoy NXT UK. I do enjoy NXT. Besides New Japan, NXT is the most fun I have watching wrestling. But WWE just hasn't been striking anything that's really to write home about. So my main focus is New Japan, some of the British scene, a little bit of pro wrestling Noah, and the alternative scene like Impact and Ring of Honor. Like, that's really where my heart is as a wrestling fan, because I've said this for years that WWE does not need to be the end all and be all as a marker of success in this industry. Like, just because Vince McMahon signed your paycheck, it doesn't mean that you've made it. And we're starting to see that in the phenomenon of wrestlers wanting to leave, and wanting to express their art that is pro wrestling in the way that is most sincere to them. And that is just amazing to see. And that just means more wrestling content for the rest of us. So there's your little get to know me this week. And we're just going to go straight into it. Best of the Super Juniors. We have this tournament coming up. We have like all of these shows. Like, I looked at the schedule last night, and I was discussing this with my friend Jen on Twitter @Shetty. I love you, girl. We were talking about this schedule, and I was like, I'm going to be sleep deprived for the entire month of May, but this is so going to be worth it, because we have these participants. Like, I'm not going to sit here and list out every participant, because there's so many, and you would lose track of who's in it by the time I was done anyway. So I'm just going to give you some of my highlights from this list. We have, of course, Bone Soldier Taiji Ishimori is in this, and I want him to do very, very well. We have Teton from Mexico, who's a masked wrestler who I haven't got a chance to research him yet, but I am planning on doing that this weekend when I have some downtime, kind of, view some of his work and see what he's all about. Then we have the villain, Marty Scurll, one of my favorites in the world. He's one of my favorites in the world, too. If I'm being honest, I could add him and put him in the top 6, if I'm honest. He's in this, which I'm hoping maybe he might win this, because I think that would be really, really cool to see Marty Scurll versus, if Dragon Lee still has that belt, versus Dragon Lee. Like, that would be a really cool match to see the dynamic between Marty's more catch wrestling, joint manipulation based style, and Dragon Lee's just crazy off the chain, high flying acrobatic style. I think that would be a really, really fun match to witness. Also, we have the aforementioned Dragon Lee. He is in it. And Dragon Lee, like I said, is super crazily talented in that ring. I just watch his matches on World sometimes, and I just sit there, jaw to the floor, like, how in the hell is this guy pulling these moves off? It's fantastic, and it's amazing to see. And he's one of the ones that I would want to do very well in this tournament as well. Then we have also the Sniper of the Skies, Robbie Eagles from the Bullet Club as well. We have him in Best of Super Juniors. And Robbie Eagles is very, very talented. Like, I know New Japan fans, we've only seen very little of his work because he's just been introduced to us here recently. But I kind of knew of Robbie Eagles beforehand because I do, follow a lot of smaller independent companies throughout the world to kind of keep an idea of what's going on in different areas of the world, like Melbourne City Wrestling in Australia, Progress, ICW in the UK, WXW in Germany. I do that. I kind of keep a pulse on like what's going on to keep an eye out for talent that I think could be coming down the pipeline over here to our country in our neck of the woods. And he's one of those that he is just amazingly talented, and he's a sweetheart of a dude too. And he's one that I would really want. Like if Ishimori is not gonna, have that belt and he's not gonna get this shot, like he's the one that I would really want to see with that junior heavyweight title. We also have the Octopus Jonathan Gresham, who is amazingly talented. Like this dude, like his ability to just twist you up, like they don't call him the Octopus for nothing. He can sit, it's like he has like multiple arms more than humanly possible, and he just twists these guys up, and it's just amazing to see. And he's one of the ones that I would keep an eye out in this tournament for. Then we move on to Bandito, who I adore. Bandito. He is in his younger 20s, and this guy is so talented. Like we saw him at Ring of Honor in San Antonio, and this guy is just flying around like insanity. Like you would blink and you would miss a move. That's how good Bandito is. And Bandito actually is one that I know Rey has been in for a long time, but if there was ever a way possible for us to get Rey Mysterio versus Bandito, when I tell you that match would be a house of fire, I am not joking you. That match would be a house of fire. That would put some butts in seats. That would make people buy or subscribe to New Japan World if Rey ever did want to do that. So it's just something to think about. And then we have the possibility of one of two things. LP or El Phantasmo, who is the newest member of Bullet Club, which I am welcoming you with open arms into the club as a girl who's been there from the beginning, because I've seen your work, and LP is just fantastic. He's worked in the UK a lot. He's worked over in Europe a lot. He is Canadian, and he is just charismatic as all hell. He has the moveset. He has the look. He's a winner. Tama, Fale, all you guys, you picked a winner. And if he is indeed the final participant, then I welcome that with open arms. We also have the possibility of Hiromu Takahashi coming back, because it really wasn't made clear to us that El Phantasmo or LP is the final participant in Best of Super Junior. So a lot of us are still kind of with that hopeless romantic in us that wants that happy ending for Hiromu Takahashi so bad. And we miss him so much that, we want him to be that final participant. And, like he did, tweet out like, sorry, I believe, right after that announcement was made. So I'm not sure if that was him, kind of selling it to make the surprise even greater when he returns or what. But, if it is Hiromu Takahashi and he is that final participant, I'm sorry, everybody else in this tournament, I've just got to go with Hiromu. I've got to go with Hiromu getting that belt back, because he never lost it. He had to give that belt up because of that neck injury. And he is so universally adored and loved because he is such a sweet guy. He, is charismatic. Him and Daryl, it's just this beautiful thing. And I want to see him back. Like, I miss you. I miss you. I call him the best cat daddy of them all, because there's this quote where he says, I truly believe cats can save the world. And as a cat girl who has 8 cats of her own, that is just amazing to see that someone has that much love and appreciation for, the same animal that I do. And so it makes you feel like this personal bond to Hiromu Takahashi. And I just hope that he comes back sooner rather than later. Now, there are a couple of participants in the Best of Super Juniors that I'm kind of questioning. And those two would be Sho of Roppongi 3K, 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 and Shingo Takagi from LIJ. I was looking when Shingo was facing off against Okada in a match. I think it was a tag match here on this Pro Wrestling Dontaku tour. And I looked at it, and besides the fact that maybe Shingo Takagi is maybe like 4 inches shorter than Okada, you look at them side by side, and him and Okada, if anything, Shingo Takagi looks like he has more muscle on him, and he is he's more jacked, I guess would be the right term, than Okada is. And that tells me that with like maybe that 4 inch height difference, that maybe he does have that equivalent weight because he is, you know, bigger muscular wise. And I looked it up, and apparently they list his weight as 212, which is under the heavyweight limit for Japan. And at this point, we all need proof. We need both of them in front of us on a scale, and I want to see what the real weights are, because Shingo Takagi is a mother freaking heavyweight in New Japan. Wake up. And Sho as well. Sho has put on so much muscle. He's been bodybuilding like crazy, and he really feels like he is a heavyweight and he's ready to move up. And I know that that would mean the end of my beloved Roppongi 3K, 3K, 3K. I love you, Rocky. That theme song is amazing. My husband, who is not the wrestling fan, demanded I play that for him this past week. He adores that theme song so much. So, you know, like, I just want to see Sho and Shingo move up, but it's time. And that brings us to the main event that we had the other night, which was Switchblade Jay White versus Hiroki Goto, with the premise being that whoever wins this match, they get whoever is IWGP Heavyweight Champion after all is said and done with Sonata and Okada. And Jay did fantastic during this match. He took a lot of punishment. Excuse me. He took a lot of punishment during this match. And there were different points where I legitimately thought Jay was concussed, because he said after the match that, like, I don't know if this was him selling, you know, like the beating that he did take and what he had to overcome in order to get this victory. But he was like, I'm seeing double, you know, and like his eyes, like, it looked like they were crossed. Like, I was concerned that he had a concussion. And it looks like he was all right, and it was just him selling, which, Jay, making me worry about you. Shame on you, boy. Shame on you. Just joking. Everybody knows I love Jay, and I can never say mad at him. So, in the ending sequence of this match, Jay was an Eddie Guerrero fan, and you can tell from the way that he cheats in his matches, because, you know, we have Goto coming up to the side of the ring on the apron, distracting the referee, and then Jay gets that low blow in on Goto, gets that fucking pin, and wins. And I was legitimately maniacally laughing at like 5 o'clock in the morning watching that, because that was just brilliance on his part. And we were all tweeting, like all the Bullet Club fans were all like, what were we supposed to see? We didn't see anything. Jay won that match fair and square. Heel life. It's real. So, and there was also this other point in this match where Jay is kind of coming into his own with his heel tactics and how he works and gets heat. Like, there was this one point in the match where Hiroki Goto was on the canvas, and Jay's got one hand throttled around his throat, and he's got one hand on the mat. And while he's simultaneously choking Goto out, Jay starts doing push-ups on top of Goto with the other arm with one arm push-ups while choking Goto out. And that moment, like, I lost my crap over that because I was like, that is just brilliance. That is just sheer brilliance, wise beyond his years. Like, that was just fantastic. That was a moment of, this is a heel who is going to do whatever he can to get a dirty advantage and to make himself look like the cockiest prick you've ever met in your life. And I applaud Jay on that. I applaud Jay on that performance in that match. It was just solid. And I'm going to say it again. Jay is the real champion in my eyes. And it doesn't matter who it is, Sonata or Okada. Come Dominion, I really think that he's getting that belt back. I really think at Dominion he's getting that belt back. And this is going to lead to a very interesting G1. It all depends on whether, if he does get the belts at Dominion, the G1 is going to be hella interesting. If he doesn't, then we're going to have another, like last year's G1, where Jay he ran that tournament. Like, let's be honest. Jay White last year made the G1 28 fun and interesting to watch, from the demanding a chair saga backstage to the victories over Tana and Okada. He just made that tournament super entertaining to watch, and he made it fun. And now, if he doesn't have that title, and now he's being even more hyper aggressive, he's being more in your face, you ain't seen nothing yet. G129 is going to be lit with Jay White going in there and making everybody's life a living hell. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And it's looking like I'm going to be going to Dallas to see the night one of the G1. And I'm looking very much forward to that. And there's also a possibility of, if Impact books him, getting to say hey to Kross in person, and pulling off a doubleheader weekend of Jay White and Killer Kross. Like, that's the ultimate dream come true. So Impact, please book him, and don't do what you did at Rebellion, because what you did at Rebellion was kind of shady. You put the man all over the commercials, and you put him on the poster, and then he's not even booked for the pay-per-view, which was kind of messed up on your part, Impact. And you've been kind of not treating Kross with the respect that he deserves for the talent that he is, Impact. So I'm just saying, make sure he's booked, because if I buy that ticket and I go and he's not booked, I will never watch an episode of Impact again. I may go on YouTube and look for Kross highlights, but sorry. Like, at this point, we've got to put our foot down. And this kind of brings me to an issue that I've been noticing with a lot of Impact fans, is that they want to say that everything Impact does is great, when that's not the case. And I was discussing this with a friend actually earlier today, that you're not helping Impact to improve and get better if you constantly say that everything they do is golden. If you admit that, hey, there are some things that they need to work on, then they know they have to work on it. Because if you just keep telling them that everything they're doing is great, things aren't going to get better and things aren't going to improve, and we're going to continue to regress. So just my thing is, just be sincere. And, if you truly do like everything that Impact does, then God bless you. More power to you. To each their own. I always say this. If all the world thought the same way, this world would be a blasé, monochromatic spectrum of all these just shades of gray, black, and white, and it would be boring as hell. What makes this world beautiful and as wondrous as it is the fact that we have these billions of people, like 7 billion people, I think the planet is up to at this point, that all think differently, that are all their different, unique shade of the rainbow. And that to me is beautiful. So if you legitimately like everything that Impact does, more power to you. But I'm just saying that we need to start, kind of holding them a little bit more accountable to a lot of things, like the way that they're using Kross, the way that they're using Scarlett at this point, because, you know, like putting her with Fallah Bahh when she's supposed to be a heel who is telling everybody you're a 5, it's kind of contradictive. It's kind of, you know, like, what's going on here? Like, are we dealing with a tweener? Are we dealing with the heel? Are we dealing with the face? Like, what are we doing? And it's kind of been muddled, you know, and I know that people say these days in wrestling there's no such thing as a clear defined baby face and a clear defined heel. But with Scarlett, you kind of have to define this a little bit more, and you have to kind of refine this. So that's my thoughts on that. And we're going to move straight into the thing that broke Twitter the other night. Jon motherfucking Moxley is back, y'all. And I, for one, am thrilled. I am thrilled to death. I am thrilled to death to see Jon Moxley return, because as someone who was a Jon Moxley fan back when he had Trina Michaels and Rebby Sky, now Rebby Hardy, Matt Hardy's wife, you know, on his arm, and, you know, being the playboy, the bad like he was a psycho and he was crazy as hell, but the women loved him. How do you think that nickname that he has got started? How do you think that got started, y'all? So as someone who saw what Jon Moxley was capable of, you know, the chainsaw to the forehead, those crazy, intense, hardcore matches with like Jimmy Jacobs and plenty of others, it was painful to suffer through the presentation that WWE put before us in Dean Ambrose. It was very wacky, very comedic. It wasn't the basis of what Jon Moxley really was. And so for us to have a chance to now get that side of the man known as Jonathan Good back, that's just amazing. And I'm just so happy for him, because not a lot of people have thought about this. Like, people are like, why is he leaving WWE? Why is he leaving that money? Why is he, you know, taking this risk when he's married? Well, a lot of you are forgetting, because we all have the attention span of ants these days with social media and the way our world is so rapidly moving. But last year, he was super sick. He had that staph infection that nearly killed him. As someone who has been through a tough long-term illness and has been in the hospital multiple times and, you know, like almost died a couple of times, I can tell you that that changes you. That changes what you value. That changes your currency in life. Your currency in life is no longer money. It's what's going to make you happy and what's going to make you the most creatively satisfied. Because wrestling is an art form, and the wrestlers are artists. And what they do in that ring and what they do with their promos, that's their art. That's their Rembrandt. That's their Monet. That's their Da Vinci. That's their masterpiece. And if you're constantly being made to do something that you don't want to do and that's not sincere to what you want to put out there as an artist, you're going to be miserable, and you're not going to be creatively satisfied. And you're not going to, when you look in the mirror, you're not going to be happy with yourself. And so I think that from the human side of it, he just wants to do what makes him happy. And for that, I applaud you, and I say, go for it. Go and unleash that total mock, explicit violence on us. Let's do it. Let's do this, dude. And there's also another side of this Jon Moxley story that not everybody has been, you know, discussing. And that is what's going to happen with Renee Young, his wife, because she just really got started with this commentary job, and it feels like she's just now finding her stride. And I would hate for this to turn into a CM Punk and AJ Lee situation where AJ Lee was pretty much forced to leave because her husband left, and it wasn't on such great terms. And the situation with Brandy and Cody when both of them left. So we don't know what's next for Renee Young. And that is what I am curious to see. I'm curious to see how much class and dignity Vince McMahon handles the situation with. And, he's got enough bad PR as it is for days. So at this point, just live and let live. Let Renee work. Don't make her life a living hell. Don't make her pay for the fact that her husband wants to be creatively satisfied and live his best life. Don't do that to Renee. That's all I'm asking, because I adore Renee and I adore her commentary, because Renee's commentary is so organic and it's from a fan perspective. It's the way a fan would react to these different situations. And it's, she's not, her voice is very calming. It's a nice voice. It's friendly, and it's better than the constant screaming and yelling and bickering and arguing we have between Michael Cole and Corey Graves on a weekly basis, and the stuff with Byron and Corey, which sometimes I'll give it to them. They can be hilarious, but most of the time it's just aggravating, and it seems so put on. But Renee is just so good at just making you feel like you're listening to a fellow fan call this, and it feels organic. And I know a lot of people, they don't necessarily like her commentary, but like I said before, the world is a beautiful rainbow, and we all have different opinions, and, that's just mine on Renee. And so now this leads us to where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Where in the world will Jon Moxley go? And I can honestly see him, because he's made that WWE money, just, working GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, and, just being happy working those smaller independent shows. I could so totally see that happening. There is a lot of people who are drawing comparisons in that video to Switchblade Jay White's debut VCR, which I actually did. I did this because I wanted to see what people were seeing. So I put the Jon Moxley video on Twitter, turned my phone sideways, full screened it, and then I played that debut VCR on YouTube on my laptop of Jay, and I sat and I watched them at the same time, and I was like, holy crap, people are right. Like you do very much so in that Jon Moxley video, you do get those Switchblade Jay White, those New Japan VTR vibes. It's hella strong, and you do get that. So, I mean, it could be a possibility. He wasn't with Switchblade Conspiracy, Sami Callihan, so there is a possibility that, this could be leading to a match with Jay, which someone asked me a question about that, and I will give you more detailed thoughts on that in a little bit. And there's talk of AEW, because in the video there's the two dice, and one says 2 and one says 5, and May 25th is the date of Double or Nothing. So it could be that he is doing Double or Nothing, and Jimmy Havoc is already engaged with the video on Twitter, and a lot of people are wanting to see Jimmy Havoc versus Jon Moxley, which, I mean, I used to be really big into death matches, but as I've gotten older, I can watch some of them, but like the ones that get really, really crazy, I can't watch. Like, I can't watch, somebody put a skewer through their head. I can't watch people go through massive panes of glass. I can't bring myself to watch that anymore. Like some of the smaller stuff like thumbtacks and barbed wire, like I can deal with that. Like I can deal with that small stuff. But like once you start getting into the Muy Loco territory of, like we're breaking light tubes over our foreheads, we're stabbing each other with light tubes, like once you start getting into that territory, I really can't do it anymore. And I don't know if that's just because I've gotten older and I'm matured and now I understand more physically what that does to someone's body. But I really can't. But if they did do like a death match, I would hope it would be like that, like a, like barbed wire, thumbtacks, like that type of situation, not just balls to the wall. And I could so totally see that Jimmy Havoc match happening. And that is a dream match for a lot of the deathmatch fans out there and a lot of the hardcore fans out there. It really is. So if that's where this is leading, great. But I could see him really going anywhere at this point. I really and truly could. I could see him in New Japan. I could see him in GCW, maybe CZW. I could see him in another smaller indie somewhere that maybe we don't know about, that he's wanting to pull a CM Punk and just go to this local indie where he lives, which would be amazing if it was FSW, because that's where Killer Kross came from. And I think that would be awesome if he worked that show every now and again. So we just need to at this point, everything that I've said is speculation and conjecture at this point. We have no idea what's going on. All we have is that video. That's all we have. And that video, by the way, has done spectacularly well. It's up to, like, the last time I checked, which was maybe last night, we were nearing 2 million views on Twitter alone. And that video has been embedded and shared multiple times and downloaded and embedded to other sites. So we don't know what those view counts are as well. But that is a huge success. And that just goes to show that there is a demand for WWE talent to be treated with respect and for them to be able to be sincere to who their character really is. And it shows that demand. It shows that there is that demand. And we have several talents right now, they're having to sit out contracts because they want to leave. And, if that doesn't tell you, that WWE is kind of on shaky ground, I don't know what does. I mean, with the amount of views that are required to bring in a success for Fox, at this rate, they're going to be in big trouble when they go to Fox with SmackDown. Because SmackDown on Fox, they're going to be expecting those huge numbers, like huge numbers that broadcast free television gets. And if they don't, they're going to be in trouble. And they had a massive record drop-off this week. I think the 4th biggest drop-off in viewership in the 3rd hour on Raw this week. And then SmackDown's ratings weren't that great at all. And another thing that, that I kind of noticed is I'm getting up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to watch New Japan shows, and I can remember everything that happened during these shows, but I can't remember really what happened on Raw in prime time in my own country. And to me, if that's not a damning indictment of how WWE is doing, I don't know what is. And they've got to do some overhauls backstage and creative. And it's honestly time for Vincent Kennedy McMahon to retire. You've worked your ass to the bone for years, Vince. You don't need to continue to do this until you die. You have grandkids. You have a life outside of this. Go enjoy that and let Triple H, let Stephanie, let the people who know what's up as far as what's current in pop culture and what's going to be a success, let them take over. Just that's all I ask. And another thing that's happened is Tama Tonga on Twitter this morning goes and says he doesn't want to be in the G1. He said that he wants to focus solely on Gorillas of Destiny, GOD, and those tag belts that they have, the ROH tags and the IWGP heavyweight tags. He really does want to focus on that. And that, big ups to you, Tama, for being an OG like that and keeping it real and being like, hey, I don't want to be in the G1. I'm not interested in that title shot. That title is for Jay to go after at this point, which not a lot of people are seeing that. That's his way of saying that title is for Jay to go after. And we're going to support him in that, and we're going to focus on the tags. And that's just amazing, Tama. Big ups to you, buddy. And so now I'm going to go into, because I think we pretty much covered everything. Oh, one more thing. We are going to cover something that kind of I tweeted about yesterday, that with AEW, I don't know if it's because at this point we've had like everybody is going to AEW every week and it's just been so long of a build, but just I've hit the proverbial wall with AEW and my excitement level, and I'm numb to it. Like I can't be bothered to really watch BTE as soon as it drops. Like I can wait a few days now. It doesn't feel to me like I said, like I've been a Bucks fan for 10 years, and I feel like such a crappy Bucks fan because I'm not excited for them in this venture as much as I feel I should be. And I just think a lot of fans are hyped out, and I think it's going to pick back up before Double or Nothing for sure. But I would just caution them in the future of this constant hype train, because people are going to get exhausted and they're going to hit that fatigue and they're going to hit that brick wall, just like I did. And if me, a person who is obsessed with professional wrestling and obsessed with everything having to do with the industry, gets burnt out, then you kind of got a problem. And I just want to say respectfully, like let's kind of do this a little bit differently for the next big show, guys. Like let's kind of cool it on all the hype train constantly, every single day, something new. Like we gotta kind of make the people want more by giving them less. And like I said, like I feel so crappy about this, but at the end of the day, it's how I feel. And like I've said before, beautiful rainbow of opinions, and mine's one of them. And I'm sure there are a lot of fans that they have their opinions and they're super excited for AEW. And hey, that is awesome for you. Like I am super glad and I am happy for you that you were so excited for this, because we need this excitement in wrestling. We need something new, something fresh, something organic, something that feels real, something that feels like an alternative to what we previously talked about, the shitty crap that's going on WWE main roster television right now. So that's just my thoughts on that. Like, I just have to say that just I'm feeling hyped out, and, maybe it'll pick back up as we get closer to Double or Nothing. We'll just have to wait and see, and I'll kind of give you the report back on that. But other than that, that's basically all the news that we have to cover this week. It is, like I said, it was going off the rails on a crazy train a la Ozzy Osbourne this week. Like I said, I thought I was going to have a chill night before New Japan came on, and then 11 o'clock my time, this video dropped, and my just all night just turned into following the developments, following the news and everything else. And I even tweeted, I said, I think I'm going to have a chill night before NJPW. Jon Moxley, you fucking thought what? So, like, it's just amazing, this world of wrestling we live in today, where stuff like that can break at midnight because of the social media that we have, because of the technology that we have, because back in the 90s, back in the Attitude Era, a video at midnight would never drop, and people would never be online talking about this for hours on end, like into the wee hours of the morning. Like, this would never happen back in the day, and we need to appreciate the fact that we do have social media as a wrestling community to connect with each other and to talk about things. And I think social media, for all the bad that it brings to the business, it brings a lot of good, and this is one of those situations where it just brings a lot of good, and social media use shines brightest in moments like this. And I just applaud, once again, Jon Moxley, a.k.a. Jonathan Good, a.k.a. Dean Ambrose. I applaud you on making this decision to actually go out there and be creatively satisfied with your art. And I think that about wraps it up with that. So that brings us to the segment that I talked about earlier that I am wanting to do to kind of get more interactive with you guys, kind of in the vein of Killer Kross, kind of make you feel like you're a part of this. And so my first question I got at hashtag AskTheSwitchBabe on Twitter was from Maya Rose, who is a good friend of mine. She's a fellow good sister, at Maya Rose 21. And she says, hashtag Ask the Switch Babe. Thoughts on a potential match between Jon Moxley and Switchblade Jay White? That match is a dream match by every standard you look at it. They're both, while Jay isn't the same type of crazy as Jon Moxley is, still both crazies together would make for some insane matches. It would make for some good storytelling that they could tell with the whole, Switchblade conspiracy with Sami Callihan and Jon Moxley. It would be really cool to see that, and I think that match would blow the roof off of any venue you put it on in. It's just whether Moxley decides to go to New Japan or not, because Jay is signed to a contract with New Japan, and really, unless it's Ring of Honor or Rev Pro in the UK, he's really not going to work the show, because New Japan wants to protect their asset in Jay White, and they don't want him going to, some small indie where they don't know, if everything's kosher, and he gets hurt, and that puts New Japan out. So this is all going to hinge upon whether or not Moxley goes to New Japan, AEW, GCW, CZW, wherever he ends up. So, that's my thoughts on that. It's just it would be a dream match, fantastic match. However, we just have to see where Moxley goes first in order to see if that's going to take place or not, because Shinny Hong wants to protect Jay White, and they want to make sure that his health, his safety is looked after. And in that vein, they're not going to let him go work in just any date. So there's kind of a scoop on that. Another question that came in to Ask the Switch Babe was from Evolution of Pro Wrestling on Twitter. And it says, who is the better talent, Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart in their prime days? Now, this question is kind of tough for me to answer, because I was both a HBK and a Bret Hart girl. I loved both sides. I adore the Hart family. And I think if you look strictly from a wrestling ability standpoint, Bret Hart would go over in that category, because, he was trained in the dungeon with his father, Stu, and was stretched and tortured for years by his father, and knows how to do the same to others. So, from wrestling ability wise, I would give that nod to to Bret. But for Shawn Michaels, as far as the entertainment goes, as far as the over-the-top personality, he kind of wins that category with, the crazy things that he used to do back before he became a born-again Christian, the segment with Sunny Days, like all of just the insanity that was HBK pre-Jesus. It's kind of tough. I will say this, that Bret's career was shortened because of the stroke and everything else that happened with him. So I guess if you looked at career longevity and who has had more time in the business and as a whole, I would have to give that nod to HBK. So I guess if you held my feet to the fire, I would say that HBK, because HBK did have the ability, but he also had that over-the-top entertainment aspect as well. Whereas Bret was a little bit less charismatic, in the way that he spoke. It wasn't as, vivacious, I guess is the word I'm looking for, as Shawn Michaels. So at the end of the day, I would have to give it to HBK. And we also had some questions I posted in the RWT group, some asking for questions. And my good buddy, my good old pal, David, the artist formerly known as Butcher, he asked overall opinion on my man Naito and is he in JPW until he retires? And I say yes. I think Naito is happy where he is, despite the ornery bastard that he portrays that's always miserable and throwing the belt around and whatnot. I think he's happy there, and I think he's there for life. And I could easily see Naito winning the G1 and maybe going up against Jay at Wrestle Kingdom next year. I could honestly see that. Excuse me. I'm sorry, guys, but I live in Louisiana, and the pollen here is insane right now, so scratchy throats are just the norm. I had my good buddy Moses Marquez asked, do you think Kota Ibushi could get the Omega Rocket to the heavyweight title after his feud with Naito is over? And will it be his time? I could definitely see that, and I want that for Ibushi. Ibushi has for years kind of been the crazy guy that's basically been Kenny's boyfriend with New Japan and hasn't got to shine, hasn't got to be given those accolades like the IC belt that he has that looks just resplendent on him, that white and that gold with Ibushi, and it just looks beautiful, and just to see that is amazing. And I so totally could see them doing that. I could see it Ibushi winning the G1 as well. I could see that happening down the line. And I think Ibushi is doing just fine. I think him with that, like I said, that IC belt and Kota Ibushi is just beautiful. And I think it is his time. I think it's his time to shine. And I think it's the time for the Golden Star to go out there and shine the brightest. I legitimately think that. And I want the world for Ibu-san. I want the world for him. He is amazingly talented. He's charismatic as all get out. He's gorgeous. He's just this amazing talent, and I want to see him succeed, and I really do think it's his time. I think the start of it being his time was when he won that IC belt. I really and truly do think that, and it's just onwards and upwards for the Golden Star, and let's just see where he ends up. So that wraps up this week's episode. This week's episode, I think, was a lot longer than last week's because we had a crap ton more news to discuss and a lot more in-depth discussion to be had. But I want to thank you, first off, for taking the time out of your busy day and your busy life to listen to this. I very much so appreciate it. And it's been humbling to receive DMs, to receive Facebook messages, Instagram DMs of people saying they enjoy the show and they're really happy for me. And just that love that I feel is just amazing, and it's humbling. And I just adore each and every one of you that listen, and each and every one of you that send me a DM and a message of support and who have shared the show. I really appreciate that, because this has been a dream of mine to have my own wrestling podcast for about 3 years now. So, the dream is finally happening. The girlhood dream has come true, beckoning back to Shawn Michaels earlier. So I just wanted to say thank you once again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My lovely, lovely babes. You all are amazing, and I love you. And that leads me to a post I made yesterday. I took a screen grab of Jay from the new Alicia Atute interview, which, by the way, is freaking hilarious. And you need to see this. They talk dick pics. They talk how dogs are better than humans. It just ran the gamut, and it was a beautiful discussion, and it was just amazing. And there's one point where Jay's pointing at the camera, and I took a screen grab of it, and I just posted on one. I was like, hey, you reading this tweet, and I posted it on IG, and I posted it on Facebook. You were awesome. You were beautiful. You were loved, and you are enough. And if you're having a rough day, a rough night, rough afternoon, whatever the case may be, take some advice from Jay White. Just breathe and know that everything is going to be okay in the end. It always does. We always think that in life, the tough situations and the tough days are going to last forever, but they never really do. And I just want to send you that little message of love and support and positivity, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and as someone who, has dealt with depression, anxiety, PTSD, I am a big proponent of self-care and making sure that you take care of you and that you love yourself and you're not too hard on yourself. And I think that about wraps it up. So I know this is going to sound ridiculous to follow me at 3 different places at 3 different handles, but at this point, I'm going to be slowly transitioning to moving everything over to the Switchbabe Pod account and then changing my handle on IG to match. But right now, if you want to follow me on IG, my handle is SwitchXQueen. If you want to follow my personal Twitter account, that used to be my hubby's, that is at AXIMILI55. That's on Twitter. And also on Twitter, the official Switchbabe Pod account is at Switchbabe Pod. So follow that, and you'll get to see my thoughts and my opinions and maybe some love and light and positivity, because on my IG I share all the time, different affirmations and manifestations of love. So that about wraps it up, guys. Talk to you next week. And next week we're probably going to be discussing what happened with Sonata and Okada and more, and further developments with Moxley. But until then, peace.